Hi, this is Donna of Yoga for You. I've been teaching yoga for over 19 years, and I specialize in yoga for older adults. My yoga classes are designed for those of us who aren't 40 anymore, but we want to stay active, fit, and balanced at any age. So I invite you to join me for the class this morning. We're going to do a gentle practice about lengthening the spine. So our spine is super important. We all know probably every single one of us, especially if we're no longer 40, have had some sort of maybe lower back issues, neck issues. So the spine is really important that we keep it healthy. And one of the famous yoga teachers that's no longer with us, BKS Iyengar, used to always say, "You're only as young as your spine is flexible." So join me for this class. We'll move through the 6 ranges of motion of the spine and make sure that you do what's comfortable for you. Maybe not exactly what I'm doing. Make sure it feels right for you, and I will try to offer modifications as we go along. So we're going to begin on our backs. Go ahead and lie down. If you have a yoga blanket, a towel, anything to make yourself more comfortable, please grab hold of that. You could place it under your head if you'd like. So as we lie down, I'm going to invite you to bend your knees. Place your feet on the floor. Make yourself comfortable and just close your eyes. And take the first few moments here at the beginning of our practice to settle in. Whenever I cue my students in my group classes to settle in, I'm referring to just settle into your own body, to the space that you may be occupying at this moment. Know that you have this next hour to just spend on yourself. So release any preoccupations you may have, any thoughts, worries, tensions, and just come into this space with the eyes closed. We start to release the outward stimulus. We turn inwards. Notice any sounds that you may hear, whether it's within the room that you're occupying, maybe it's outside the room, in your neighborhood. And then begin to observe your own flow of breath. Notice the breath in and the breath out. And then lightly rest your palms on your lower abdomen, beneath the navel. And see if you can find this diaphragmatic breath. So the diaphragmatic breath is ideally the way we breathe throughout the day. When we get very emotional, angry, upset, fearful, our breath moves way up into our chest and it becomes very shallow. So feel your breath dropping all the way down to the abdomen. As you inhale, feel the lower belly rise beneath your hands. And as you exhale, feel it descend back into the body. When we're breathing diaphragmatically, there's very little movement in the chest. This is a more efficient and effective way for our bodies to breathe. If this feels awkward to you, just keep at it until it becomes a more natural way to breathe. Let's just take a few more rounds of breath here. In yoga, we refer to this breath as pranayama. Prana is the energy that is contained within each breath. So as we inhale, we are virtually filling our body up with prana, with energy. And as we exhale, we're releasing what no longer serves us. Carbon dioxide, and also it could be maybe anything that you don't need any longer, that you're carrying around with you. Could be tensions and worries. And when you come around to your next exhalation, release your hands down by your side. And if you'd like, slowly open the eyes and allow the gaze to be soft, maybe looking up towards the ceiling. And I want you to feel into your own spine. So just notice I'm actually going to move my blanket out of the way, out from underneath my head, so that I'm lying flat. If that's uncomfortable for you, if you have a more rounded upper back, which is referred to as kyphosis, then you may need to keep that blanket there so your head doesn't drop off at an odd angle. Otherwise, just pause here, and I want you to feel into your own spine. So let's start up at the top of the neck, at the cervical spine. And hopefully you've got some space behind the neck. We want to maintain that space there. Now, in the cervical spine, there are 7 vertebrae. So imagine you're kind of counting through those 7 vertebrae that make up the cervical spine or your neck. And right at the base of the neck, you're going to feel kind of maybe a little lump. And that is that 7th cervical vertebra. And then we move into the thoracic spine. So there are 12 vertebrae that make up your thoracic spine. And even if you don't know them all, don't worry about it. But imagine that you're counting down through that upper and mid back. And just notice how the back curves into the floor now through that thoracic spine. And then we move into the lower back, and this is the lumbar spine. And hopefully we've got a little bit of an arch. We don't necessarily want a huge arch here, but a little bit of a natural arch. Each one of us is going to be built a little different as to how much of an arch we have. Now, there are 5 vertebrae that make up our lumbar spine. Then we move into what's called the sacrum and the coccyx part of the spine. And this is down low, and it's actually where the vertebra is fused together. All right, and so there's usually 9 vertebrae that are fused and make up the sacrum and the coccyx part of the spine. So just become very aware of your spine, how it feels right here, right now. And we're going to start some simple, easy movements. Inhale, start to draw your right arm overhead. Now, if you've got shoulder issues and it bothers the shoulder to bring it all the way overhead, then only go as far as it feels comfortable for you. And as we exhale, we flow it down. So the movement corresponds with the breath. We breathe in, left arm rises, and we breathe out and we release. Keep alternating. Inhale, right arm, and exhale it back down. Inhale, left arm overhead, And exhale it back down. Now let's do one more on each side. Breathe in right. Breathe in left. Now we're going to add to this movement through the shoulder joints. We're going to add some leg movements. So as we inhale, the right arm comes overhead. You're going to start to extend the left leg out along the length of the mat. Inhale, right arm, left leg. Exhale, come back to center. Inhale, left arm, right leg. Exhale, back. Keep moving. Inhale, right arm, left leg. Inhale, left arm, right leg. Let's do one more round. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Now I'm going to add one more component to this movement, and it's going to be in our cervical spine, our neck. So as the right arm moves overhead and left leg extends, you're going to turn your head to the left. So inhale, right arm, left leg, turn your gaze to the left and come back to center. Left arm, right leg, turn your gaze to the right and back to center. Keep going. Right arm overhead, left leg extends, look to your left and back. Left arm, right leg, look to your right. Let's do one more set like that. Inhale, right arm over, you're looking to the left. Inhale, left arm over, you're looking to the right. And then come back to center. Now walk your heels in just a little closer towards your sits bones. The sits bones are the bones in the butt cheeks that you can feel, especially if you're sitting on a hardwood floor. So move the heels in a little closer. Ideally, the ankles are beneath the knees. However, if you've got knee issues and they don't want to bend this deeply or go into this deep of flexion, then you might have to have them out a little bit. Hands resting down by your side. We're going to inhale, float those hips up towards the ceiling, bridge pose. Exhale, float everything down. Do this a few times. Breathe in. And as the hips rise, make sure you're not flattening out the back of the neck. You maintain that cervical curve. Let's do two more. Breathing in, the hips rise. Exhale, they descend. One more time. Breathing in, the hips rise. And exhale, they descend. Now we're going to add the arms. Inhale, the hips rise and the arms reach overhead. Exhale, let the arms travel. They have further to travel. When the wrists align with your hips, release everything down. Let's do two more. Breathe in, everything rises. Exhale, slowly descend back to the mat. Last round. Breathe in, everything rises. Exhale, slowly descend back to the mat. Extend both legs out the length of the mat. Inhale your arms up and overhead and take a long stretch. Interlace your fingers. Spin your palms to face the wall behind you or above your head. Flex your feet and stretch long. Now start to tilt the upper body slightly to the right. And then walk those heels slightly to the right. So we get a little more lengthening through the left side body. And then walk your heels back to neutral. Bring the trunk back to neutral. Now tilt that upper body to the left. Walk the heels to the left. And get a little bit more lengthening through the right side body or lateral flexion of the spine. And then walk the heels back. Come back to neutral. Release the hands and hug those knees in. Rock yourself a little side to side. Now you can either make the transition by rolling to one side, using your hands to press up, or tuck your fingers underneath your legs and rock yourself up to a seat. And once we're here, we're going to transition and come to tabletop. Now, if you've got sensitive knees, I suggest using a blanket or anything you could pad your knees with underneath those knees. So after years of doing demonstrations and stuff on hardwood floors, I've got really sensitive knees and they're not getting any younger. So I usually always pad my knees just to make it more comfortable and safe for me. Come to tabletop position. So it's all fours. This is not the tabletop we want. We don't want to just sag. And we don't want to really round here. So see if you can find neutral. Press the floor away from you and feel yourself rising up. Now, knit your ribs together and draw your lower abdomen in. I call it zipping those snug jeans. So if you're of a certain age, you probably remember when it was fashionable to have your jeans so tight that about the only way you could get them on was to lie on a bed and almost use pliers to zip them up. So from pubic bone to navel, we're zipping up those jeans. It's not a squeezing. It's a gentle engagement of the lower abdominals. So see if you can find that. And let's do a couple cat-cows here. This is just an extension and flexion of the spine. Start in your sacrum. Inhale, start to move up the spine through the lower back lumbar. Arch the back and start to lift your chest and gaze forward. Now as we exhale, start in your sacrum again. Curl your tail under, round up through the lower back, mid-back, upper back, and drop your head. Do this a few times. Inhale, start to move up the spine as we arch and lift the chest. Exhale, start to move up the spine as you round. Inhale creates flexion, extension. Exhale, we move into flexion. Let's do two more. Breathing in, extension. Exhale, flexion. Last one. Now, next inhale, we're going to come into that arch, that extension. But now as we exhale, start to round. Drop your hips back towards your heels and come into a child's pose. Now again, if your knees don't want to bend this deeply, your bum might be higher up. So don't get too attached to that. That's fine. Let's keep moving. Inhale, arch your back. Bring your heart and gaze forward. Exhale, round. Drop back to a child's pose. Keep going. Breathing in and breathing out. Two more like this. Last one like this. And then make your way back to table. Lean forward, bend your elbows, and lower yourselves all the way to the floor. And from the floor, I want you to come onto your elbows or forearms. Watch that the elbows don't swing out to the side. And that kind of leaves those poor shoulder joints with no protection. So bring it in. Elbows align under the shoulders. Now check in if you've allowed yourself to collapse and you're wearing your shoulders as earrings. So draw the shoulders away from the ears as we press the floor away from us. This is meant to be a little edgy in the lower back. It helps to activate some of the kidney meridians or energy channels. If it's too much for you, then you can drop down, stack the hands, and rest your forehead. Otherwise, we pause here in Sphinx pose. Just pause a moment. I'm reaching back actively through my toes. So not everything is just dumping here. I'm pressing down through my forearms as if I'm pressing the floor away from me. My lower belly, those tight jeans, zip them up a bit. When we zip the lower belly up, that lower abdominals called the transversus abdominis draw in, and it lengthens the tailbone. We talked about that towards those heels. Let's take one more breath here. And then lower down, stack one hand on top of the other and rest your forehead. Now wiggle your hips a little side to side. That helps release any accumulated tension in that lower back. Press your pubic bone down. So if you press your pubic bone towards the floor, now my pubic bone is resting on a blanket, so I do have that cushioning. Press your pubic bone down, lengthen the tailbone towards your heels. And from this action, see if you can lift both feet or legs off the mat. Now I'm not trying to break a walnut with my butt cheeks, all right? I want to have an engagement through my glute muscles, my butt muscles, but not a clenching, because if I clench too much, I can feel that in my lower back. And then float those legs down. Now wiggle, bend your knees so your toes are pointing to the ceiling, and just rock the legs or the feet from side to side. This is our little windshield wiper movement. Windshield wiper movement. And then release the feet down. I'm not taking my feet really wide on my mat. Whoops, sorry, I hit something. Whoa, sorry about that. Shouldn't have the mouse near your feet, that's for sure. So if my feet are really wide, it tends to narrow my lower back a bit. So I'm gonna walk my feet in a little. And once again, we want to lengthen the tailbone. So press your pubic bone down, lengthen the tailbone towards the toes, and lift those feet up. Now, no prize here. I'm not handing out gifts for those people that can lift the feet the highest. So do what works for you. And then slowly release. Bend those knees and windshield wiper out again. And then extend them out. This time bring your hands to frame your chest. Check in with your shoulders. We don't want them dipping towards the earth. In fact, we want them to roll up towards the ceiling. Hug your elbows in towards midline, meaning towards your own ribs. Now press your pubic bone down. Inhale, start to peel your chest and ribs off the mat. Now you might stop here, and that's fine. This is cobra pose. Watch that the shoulders aren't hunching up. The shoulders relax back. Crown of the head is reaching, so the back of the neck is long. If you lift your chin up, you can see what happens to the neck. It starts to compress the cervical vertebra. So keep the back of the neck long. Now lower back down. Keep those shoulders back. Again, press your pubic bone down. Lengthen your spine and peel yourself up into cobra. And lower yourself back down. One more time like that. Curl yourself up. Pause here. Now lift from your navel center up and back. I'm moving my knees right back onto my blanket. Pause here. Now I'm going to curl the toes under. We're going to move into a down dog. Not everybody may want down dog. Your option is keeping your hips over your knees, walking your hands forward on your mat, and working towards a long spine here. If you want to practice down dog, we're going to lift those knees up off that mat. Keep your knees bent and start to drive your hips towards the wall behind you. So ideally, the arms are long, the spine is long. Now, some of us, we see the pictures of dog and we know, wow, they've got those straight legs. It looks beautiful. But if by straightening your legs, it shifted the weight of the torso forward over those wrists, then I advise you to bend those knees and keep a long spine. Now, let's all release down to our knees for a moment. And I want to go over this for just a second. So these are our down dog arms. Notice, I've got lots of bracelets on. That's not what I'm asking you to notice. But notice how my wrists right now are in neutral. Okay? This is an extension of the wrist. We can tell that these are little tiny bones here. If we put a lot of weight, now right here is like a plank position. My shoulder is over my wrist. That's tough. But if I lifted up and I was at a little angle and my wrist was in neutral here, then there's not going to be as much weight bearing as it would be if I were here. So when we go into down dog, you want your wrist as close to neutral, like this as possible, not like this, all right? So we plant the hands. When we rise up, we bend the knees and we move our shoulders back, away from those wrists. You could even look up and see, are my wrists as close to neutral as possible? Now, if I were shifted forward and this was my dog, you can see my wrists are no longer in neutral, and that's going to kill those poor little wrist bones. But if I'm able, even if my hamstrings are tight, if I bend my knees, drive my hips back, I can bring my wrists more into neutral. So I'm getting traction through my spine without harming those poor little wrists. Take one more breath here. Now, to get to the front of our mat, you have a choice. You could walk your feet forward. If that doesn't seem like an option, and you're saying, oh, hell no, then you could walk your hands back. Or maybe you kind of come somewhere in between. So we're going to make our way to a forward fold. In our forward fold, I really request that you touch something, whether it's the floor. I'm going to grab my block. You might have a yoga block or something you could use. If I can't touch the floor, I'm touching the block. Or even here. What I want you to try to avoid is hanging midair. If you're not able to touch the floor because the backs of the legs are so tight, what that will do is pull on the lumbar spine, the lower back. So we want to root down, ground into something. Now, if you want, drop the crown of the head in the direction of the floor. Shake your head no. For those of you out there practicing that may have glaucoma or macular degeneration, any other issue where you shouldn't or advised not to have pressure built in the head or the eyes, then you would come up here and bring your head level with your heart. So follow your doctor's advice, what works for you. Now slide your hands to your shins. As we straighten the arm, we're going to peel that heart up till we have a long spine. That is not a long spine. Pull the center of your chest forward as the shoulders slide back. Now I've got to zip my tight jeans and fold back down. Now inhale, come up, hands to hips, slowly rise up. So we're going to make our way to that standing pose. And the standing pose here is called mountain pose or Tadasana. So find your mountain pose. I'm never locking my knees out so that the back of the knee is hardened. there's always a bit of softness behind the knee. So we find this mountain pose. Tailbone, remember we talked about this, lengthens down. I'm not asking you to tuck under, it's weird, so don't do it. I'm asking you to lengthen the tailbone down so the hip bones, the pubic bone can lift and we can rise up into this beautiful standing pose. So we're going to work through the 6 ranges of motion of the spine. Inhale, arms up and overhead. You can gaze up if it doesn't hurt your neck to do so. This is called extension of the spine. I'm sorry, I've got my camera a little off, so I'm kind of disappearing here. It's a good thing I'm not super tall. So I'm going to turn to the side, and I can lift up through the front of my body. I am not just dumping into my lower back by thrusting my hips forward. In fact, my hips are drawing back. My tailbone is lengthening. And the lift, the back bend comes from lifting my chest up, extension. Now to find flexion of the spine, bring your hands to your hips, soft bend in the knees, and hinge forward. Of course, zip up those snug jeans. Now once again, rise up, lengthen the back body down, reach those arms up and find extension. Bring your hands down to your hips, hinge forward, and find flexion of the spine. And rise back up, and we're going to take lateral flexion, that side bend. Inhale your right arm up and overhead. Exhale, and bend to the left, lateral flexion or side bends. Inhale, rise up, and exhale, float that right hand down. Inhale, left arm rises. Exhale, side bend. Inhale, rise. Exhale, release. Breathe in, right arm up. Exhale, side bend. Inhale, up. Exhale, release. Last time, inhale, left arm up. Exhale, side bend. Inhale, up. And exhale, release. So now let's move into the last movement of the spine. I invite you to take your feet a little wider on the mat. I'm going to go about outer, a little wider than outer hip. And I'm going to keep a soft bend. Reach your arms up, and I'm bringing my arms into these cactus arms. They're referred to as goddess arms in yoga. Belly in, zip those jeans. Inhale here. As you exhale, twist to the right. Inhale, center. Exhale, left. Breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. So this is rotation of the spine. One more time. Come back to center and release. So we had extension, flexion, lateral flexion, and rotation of the spine. That is the 6 movements of the spine. We want to keep the spine moving in all directions and healthy. So let's do a couple rounds of half sun salutation. Half sun salutation, it's called Ardha Surya Namaskar, okay? So come to the top of your mat. Find your mountain pose of Tadasana. Inhale your arms up and overhead. Exhale, soft knees, hinge at the hips and fold forward. Hands to the floor or to that block. Inhale, hands to your shins. Lift and lengthen your spine. Exhale, fold back down. Inhale, lift and lengthen your spine. Reach your arms out and rise up. Exhale, bring your hands together at your heart. Let's do that a couple more times. Breathe in, reach up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway. Add your arms, rise up. Exhale, hands to your heart. Last round. Breathe in, reach up. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, halfway. Add your arms and rise up. Exhale, hands to your heart. Release your hands. You may be wondering why when I rise up with a straight spine, okay? Everybody has their own theories, what they believe in, what they're taught. In my videos, you won't hear me cueing you to round up like that vertebra by vertebra. I find that can be pretty tough on the vertebra of the spine. It can actually cause compression, especially as we get older, all right? So whenever I come up, we have to use core, and this actually works core better. Come up. Now, if reaching the arms out is not an option for you, keep your hands at your heart and come up with a beautiful straight spine. Not only will that strengthen the muscles of the spine, we'll get into those in another video, but it also helps to encourage strengthening these core muscles or the abdominal muscles, which we want to do. So now come onto your mat and let's find a wide stance on that mat. I've got my feet wider than my hips, all right? Instead of my toes turning out, I'm turning my toes either directly forward or even slightly in, a little bit of a pigeon toe here. Hands on your hips. Inhale. Lift your heart. The shoulders relax. Pause for the exhale. Breathing in and breathing out. Now take your right toes and pivot them out to the right side of the mat. Now you might choose to keep this stance, or you might decide you need a little wider stance. Reach your arms straight out to the side. This is not the pose. We're not crunching up. From here, bring that left hand down to your hip. Hinge forward. I'm keeping this right knee soft. I'm not locking it out. I'm forward. I want to keep length. You can see here I've lost. So I want to keep length. Now pull it back in. Feel like you're reaching for something. Lengthen and pull it back in. One more time. Lengthen. Pause here. Bring that right hand down either below the knee or above the knee. Lean back a little. And then see if you can reach that left arm up. This is triangle pose or trikonasana. Breathe here. Now rise up, pivot those right toes in, and pivot those left toes out. Again, don't lock out the knees. It will never cue you to do that. So I keep a softness. Bring your right hand down just so that it relieves that shoulder a little bit. Now hinge forward. Try to maintain length in your side body and pull back. And reach it forward. And pull it back. One more time. Reach it forward, pause, release the hand down, lean back a little. We don't want to be dropping the chest forward. Lean back, and if you want, add the arm. You don't have to. Triangle pose. Now rise back up. Pivot those left toes in. Pivot the right toes out again. Once again, just bring that left hand down. Forget about it for a moment. This time, bend your front knee. Try to avoid that knee coming way over the ankle. When the hip is this high and that knee comes over the ankle, that puts too much pressure coming down onto the knee. So you might have to move it out a little. Notice how my knee is right over my ankle. Bring your right forearm down to your right thigh. Now I'm going to roll the muscle, the tissue of my right thigh back like a rolling pin. If you're of a certain age, you know what a rolling pin is. So roll it back. Now take that right sits bone. Remember we talked about it. The bone in the right butt cheek, drop it a little lower. Lean back. Now that left hand can come straight up if you want. Side angle pose, Parsvakonasana. You could turn that palm forward and stretch it. If it hurts that shoulder joint, bring it back here or bring it back down to your hip. So I've made a straight line of alignment from my outer left foot straight up through the left side body. Now rise up, pivot those right toes in, pivot the left toes out, and bring your right hand down to your hip. Bend the left knee and first check in with your alignment of the knee. Then bring your left forearm down. Roll that flesh back. That means the knee's not rolling in towards the big toe mound or the big toe side of the foot. It's moving more towards that baby toe side. I'm going to take this left sits bone, drop it a little lower. As my hips come slightly forward, I can lean back. Right arm will reach up. It could stay there. You could choose to turn the palm forward and stretch it long. Stay with the breath. The breath is your most important aspect of your practice. When you start to lose the breath, back out a little bit. Now we're going to rise up and pivot in. I'm going to take those feet and walk them in just a little closer. Inhale your arms up and overhead. On your exhale, we're going to hinge at the hip creases, not in the back. Hinge forward, release your fingertips to the mat. If you need a block, find your block. Inhale, rise to your fingertips. Lift your heart and create space in your own spine. That lengthening. Exhale, fold. You might notice here that more weight is back in your heels. So rock a little bit of the weight forward. You'll feel your bum coming forward and aligning. One more time. Inhale, rise to your fingertips, lengthen. Exhale and fold. Bring your hands to your hips, shoulders back. Remember that straight spine. Zip your snug jeans and rise to stand. Heel toe your feet in. That movement, that transition needs to be stable and safe. We're going to take it all the way down. So I'm going to move back to the front of my mat and find mountain. Inhale, arms sweep up. Exhale, we fold forward. Inhale, we lengthen our spines. Exhale, fold. Step back 1 foot at a time. Bend your knees, drive your hips back, down dog. You can always work towards straighter legs if that's an option for you. Our lower belly, remember, you're zipping the jeans here. If down dog is not an option in your practice today or ever, drop to your knees. Take one more breath. Exhale, slowly release those knees down to the mat. Drop your hips back and move into a nice child's pose. Steady the breath. We cultivated that beautiful, even breath at the beginning of practice. Find it again. And then start to make your way up. I'm going to grab my blanket once again because we're going to come back to those knees. And once you find tabletop, we're going to slide that right foot forward. Now, you may have 1 or 2 blocks. You could use them under either hand or just one. Or if you don't have blocks, that's okay too. You can bring your hands down to the floor. Hands up on thighs, whichever you want. Find your alignment here. Hug this outer right hip back. Remember the sacrum, we talked about it a lot. Lengthen it down and then lift the chest up into our lunge position. So think about your spine. I had you really think about it at the beginning of the practice when we were lying on our backs. So again, come back to the spine. Make sure your head didn't drop forward. Bring the skull back and find all the natural curves of your spine. Think of creating space between the vertebra Now, if you'd like, straighten into your right leg, roll your right toes up to the ceiling. Now, this is where we tend to really round the spine. Lift your chest forward. Feel like you're pulling your sternum forward as the shoulders slide back. Right hip slides back. If you find that this is just really difficult for you, having the fingers on, I really suggest you get a couple blocks because it's going to lift the floor up to you so you can maintain the length in the spine. And now as we bend that knee, slide that leg back. We're going to switch sides. That left foot is going to come through. Take your time to find your alignment, meaning ankle under knee. Use your blocks, use your leg, fingers on the floor, whatever works for you. Hug your outer left hip back a little as the chest lifts. Remember, our tailbone is lengthening down. Your tailbone always moves in the direction of the feet. So it lengthens down as the chest lifts up. Now check in if your tendency, your pattern of behavior in yoga, it's referred to as a samskara, is dropping the head. So draw the back of the skull back until you feel this natural curve of the cervical spine. Think of creating length along your spine, the vertebra, and then start to straighten into that left leg, rolling the toes up. Pull your chest forward like you're pulling your chest towards that front wall. Hug that left hip back a little. Check in if those shoulders are crunched up around your ears. That is another pattern of behavior, another samskara. Relax it. And then bend into that left knee, slide it back, and we're actually going to take a seat here. Scoot forward on your mat so you've got lots of room. Reach your arms forward. Now take these shoulders. It's called a retraction. I'm rolling my shoulders back. So roll them back, engage your zipper, and slowly lower all the way back down to the floor where we started together. Rest your palms on the floor by your hips. Knees are bent, feet are planted. Take a moment and close your eyes. And feel into your own spine here. Notice all the vertebrae starting up in the skull, moving down through the neck, the cervical spine, through the upper and mid back, the thoracic spine, down into the lower back, the lumbar spine, and down into that nice fused kind of triangular bone of the sacrum and coccyx. Hug your right knee into your chest and flex your right foot. By flexing the foot, you're going to feel the muscles engage on the shin bones, the anterior tibialis muscles. So we're drawing more muscular energy into this pose as opposed to just letting the foot hang limply. So flex it strongly. Interlace your hands behind the right thigh. If that's not an option, hold on to the thigh. Or you can always use a belt or something to wrap around the foot. And press the right heel into the ceiling. I'm keeping my foot active. It's not just hanging limp. Watch that so we know where our sacrum and our coccyx is right now. We talked about that. So you're more aware if your bum starts to roll up. So if you feel that happening, back your leg up a little. And you're going to feel that if all we try to do is create a deeper stretch by pulling the leg in, it flattens my lower back and allows my tailbone to start to roll up. So I forfeited the alignment of my spine in an effort to try to get this hamstring stretch. So I'm going to back it up, find my spinal alignment first. Then I work at trying to increase my hamstring, back of the leg stretch, without forfeiting the rest. And then bend that right knee and plant that foot. Hug the left knee in, flex the foot. Press that left foot up, interlacing your hands behind or hold that leg. I'm keeping my left foot active. Now start to notice, so you're aware of your own body. This is called proprioception. Start to draw that leg in and notice at what point your lower back flattens and your tail starts to curl up towards the ceiling. Then back the leg up until you feel the natural curve of the lower back and the tailbone is grounded or rooted. Then play with it. See if you can keep the alignment of the spine and try to draw that leg in without forfeiting something in an effort to get this stretch. And then release that leg down. Hug both knees in, flex your feet. Extend the arms out to the side and start to slowly rock those legs from side to side. This can be very nurturing for the back, but mainly what we're trying to do is nurture that nervous system. Now, if possible, we're going to roll both knees over to the right, yet we want to try to keep that left shoulder down. Now, if your left shoulder wants to pop up, you have a couple options. One, if you have a block or some sort of prop, you can bring it under your right leg, bring the floor up to you so the left shoulder stays down. If that's not an option, instead of that arm just hanging midair, bring the left hand to your hip. Start to drop your gaze towards your left shoulder in the opposite direction that your knees are. If you've got neck issues and this bothers you, then don't do it. And then the gaze comes center. We bring those knees back up and we take them over to the left. Again, using a prop if we need to or want to. Drop your gaze to the right. Now, just some information for you. If you want less of a stretch, the knees move further away from the body. You want a deeper twist, the knees move closer in towards the body. So you can experiment a little and figure out what works for you today. Then bring your gaze center, bring your knees center, and give yourself a hug. Always hugging ourselves. At the end of practice for a job well done. We showed up. We did the work. That's the biggest part. Shoulders stay relaxed. If your neck is healthy and feels good today, draw your navel down to the spine and curl your forehead up. Watch those shoulders. Stretch out the back of the neck. Release the head down. Maybe not rocking the head a little from side to side. And then extending one leg out at a time. Take the feet a little wider, and this time let the feet just roll open, our default. I like to hear, arch my upper back up a little, roll my shoulders under slightly so that I can relax. Now, if you've got your blanket, you could let it lie over your midsection to add a little weight and warmth to relax. You could use it as a pillow if that feels more comfortable. Anyone that has the rounding in the upper back, that little bit of kyphosis or maybe a lot, you really need to bring the skull up in alignment with the spine. You wouldn't want your head to be dropped off like the end of a curve. So make sure you have this alignment. Close the eyes. This last and final pose is referred to as Shavasana in yoga. And the word Shavasana translates as corpse pose, but it's not in relationship to the death of the body, but instead the death of the ego. So release any attachments you have. And those attachments may be just how you think you performed today, how you think your body performed. Instead, releasing those attachments. Those are ego. Settle into the space of contentment, a sense of peace. Peace in ourselves is not dependent on what is going on around us, especially right now during this COVID-19 pandemic. The peace comes from within. So we turn inwards and we find this space of peace, equanimity, contentment. The breath is natural and spontaneous. Just notice if there's any areas of the body that are retaining or holding on to tension. Relax the fingers and relax the toes. Relax the feet and relax the hands. Relax the wrists and the ankles. Relax the knees and the elbows. Relax the hips and the shoulders. Relax the abdomen and the lower back. Relax the ribs, front ribs, side ribs, and back ribs. Relax the chest and the upper back. Relax the throat and the back of your neck. Relax the lower jaw. Relax the lips and the root of the tongue. Relax the muscles of the cheeks. Relax the eyes and the temples. Relax the bridge of the nose and the forehead. Relax into the back of the skull and the crown of the head. And even just imagine that the brain itself, the organ of the brain, is relaxing towards the back of the skull. None of our daily problems, our personal problems, our city's problems, our nations, the world's problems are affecting us at this moment. Instead, we're resting in the sea of tranquility. knowing that you're welcome to stay here as long as you need or want to. If you're ready to move on into your day, just begin by deepening the breath. This is where we started practice together. Find your diaphragmatic breath, that belly breathing. Breath in and breath out. Start to wiggle the fingers and toes. Inhale the arms up and overhead. Take a long stretch. And then give yourself another hug here. Gently rocking from side to side. And rolling onto one side and pausing in a little fetal position. And then using your hands, we slowly transition up into a seat. Keeping your eyes closed, just bring your awareness back to your spine. As we've cultivated length and movement in our spine today, sit up nice and tall. Make sure that the tongue is still relaxed in the mouth. As we conclude our practice, bringing your palms together at your heart space, this is the Namaste position of Anjali Mudra. This gesture basically translates to the light within me bows to the light within you. I thank you for joining me today, sharing our practice, sharing our time, and sharing our individual spaces. Please join me again. Namaste. Thank you. I plan on putting several more videos up soon, so stay with me. I'll be offering gentle yoga. I'll be offering some all levels practices, which will be a little bit more challenging. I will be offering some chair yoga classes as well. So if you know someone that's really not able to get down onto the mat or get up and down comfortably, whether it's due to knee issues or back issues, or maybe they even have wrist issues, then chair yoga may be a really nice option for them. So stay tuned. Thank you and have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye.